Here's the first problem, the biggest one, according to housing advocates in Kalamazoo. It is that Kalamazoo does not have enough affordable housing. Demand outstrips the supply by as much as a few thousand units.
And this is the result of our housing policies that we've had for the last couple decades.
That's Kalamazoo Mayor David Anderson. He works for Integrated Services of Kalamazoo, one of the groups leading the hotel project. He's also on the board of the Lift Foundation, which owns the Lodge. That's one of two hotels recently used as temporary housing. Anderson says Kalamazoo, like communities across the country, faces a housing crisis a long time in the making.
We have not invested as a people into really deeply affordable housing.
And specifically in subsidized housing.
The kind of housing that allows people of all incomes, to have a place to live.
Some hotel guests have found a permanent home they can afford. Others have signed up for housing subsidies, often called vouchers. These will help them pay the rent when they can find a place. But affordable units are scarce, and would-be renters often have to wait for one. It's one reason some will likely leave the hotel program without a place to stay. Open Doors of Kalamazoo director Stephanie Hoffman also worries about the housing shortage, though she says more people could afford a place if their jobs paid them adequately.
It's not just about creating units of housing that are affordable, but what would it look like if we could reduce the wealth gap? What would it look like if we could increase families and individuals' pay?
As for adding more affordable units, Hoffman says it's difficult right now because construction costs have soared. But some affordable housing is getting built in Kalamazoo. The Lodge, a motel, is set to remodel into 60 affordable apartments. The Creamery building on Portage Street is adding a few more. There's even a plan to build 6 tiny houses on the north side this summer. For some in the hotel program, there's another barrier to finding housing, one that's more personal. Aja Surratt is with Integrated Services of Kalamazoo. We first met her yesterday in her office at the Lodge. Surratt says many of the people she works with have been through terrible experiences.
They go through so much. They got so much trauma.
Surratt says therapy can help.
But following through is not so easy for everyone when they're used to doing things their own way all the time.
Surratt says some people can be persuaded if they trust you, but that takes time.
You got to build that trust. You got to keep going. You got to keep trying to knock on their door every day. Hey, I'm down here. Hey, 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 hey. But you can't force anybody to do anything. And I think that's a lot of issues we was running into too. People who weren't really ready to really completely submit to, hey, or be humble and say, I do need help.
With the Lodge about to close, roughly a third of residents will head back to the streets or the encampment. Surratt says ISK will do its best to support them and help them keep looking for housing. For Alejandro Rodriguez, supporting the campers means meeting them literally where they are, in a big open field on the east side of the Kalamazoo River. On a recent visit, he stood by the street side, getting ready to pick up a friend who lives here so they could go pay his phone bill.
Whenever you're ready, bro.
Rodriguez, who's 27, agrees with Surratt that trauma leads people here.
Brokenness, hurt, rejection.
He says he knows because he's been there himself. He says his mom fled his abusive dad when he was a baby, and growing up, he looked for someone to take his father's place.
And I went to the streets. I went to the hood, and so everybody that I grew up with was either selling dope, cooking dope, or doing this or doing that. And so I was like, that's what a man is? Okay, I want to be a man.
Rodriguez got busted for drug dealing at age 16, went to juvenile detention and then prison. But things changed for him when a former rival reached out. They became friends, and it changed how Rodriguez thought of masculinity. He stopped believing that feelings were for the weak, and he confronted hard things from his past. And now he says things are going well for him.
And so that's why I come back to the same places that I can relate to, because if I can do it, they can do it.
Rodriguez says when he helps campers run errands or takes them out to eat, he's paying forward the love that saw him through. For WMUK, I'm Sevilla Mann.